In order to really make it clear how early networking in China was at that time, except internet service, was that the Canadians were later, and the MCA-net was already blocked, and so they have to enter that maple leaf, which now it was changed to a little star and still exists. So CA, asterisk, little asterisk. So, and then came June 4th, and the things. June 4th is an extra story. We kept our link. I throw away nasty mails from the Doxed Culture news groups. There's doing something, and such things would not be so delightful on the Chinese side and run our friends into problems. But the link was kept. But the things from
that's 1989. 1989, June 4th.
Yeah, June 4th.
Just so everybody knows, yeah.
But a little bit of that first motivation, of course, especially from the politicians, and so was lost for a while. Yeah. So we.
Okay, can you finish up now? You have a minute.
Okay, and the last thing is now. The milestone is the application, which was really a simple thing from the application side, and it was me who did that application. And that's why I copied that thing to get in the .cn domain being entered into the international domain service, and then the namespace became much more simple, and so on and so on. So, and that was my last point.
Thank you. Good. Okay, we have time for a question. Maybe yes.
I'm from China Internet Society. I first of all thank you very much for introducing to bring us to the early days of the internet development in China. And you mentioned the name of Chen Tianbai, my good friend. And Chen Tianbai is recognized in China as the very first person, very first pioneer of the internet, to lead the internet into China. But the fact you have mentioned also that the first email across the Great Wall to achieve every corner of the world, the signing, several people signed that email, but among the names there is no Chen Tianbai. So now in the list of the milestones of the internet development in China, we changed it a little bit. I don't know because we always, before that, we always said the first email was sent by Chen Tianbai through Karlsruhe University. But then the American lawyer who is trying to, she interviewed you, I think, and she brought the original document to us. We saw the first email.
Nice.
So I thank you very much.
Nice, and we thank you. It's wonderful.
You can provide all the materials to us so that we can
very
fill
nice.
our collection for the future museum. Of internet history.
Okay.
That is
very
very
nice.
Precious for us.
Nice,
So
wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Can people hold other questions?
So,
and
one more minute.
is there one more question quickly of somebody that very quickly? Good.
I was sort of thinking, what have been the effects since then up until now in China? Or maybe that's a too long question. I don't know.
No, for today it's so long. But if you go into the CNNIC webpage, you'll find the historical timeline in different chapters. And there are more publications. One of them I have with me, and so I wrote one with Chen Tianbai later. Yeah,
okay.
What happened?
Okay.
Another question I would think is,
can you just say it and we'll answer it after?
Yeah,
and can we get started making
does it have consequences for online presence of other countries, for maybe less developed countries?
Yeah, that's why I thought I invited both Werner Zorn and Kilim Chung, that to have this, to hear a bit about what happened in Asia, which is very, very, I think they're two totally different situations of what happened, but I think very interesting, and hopefully we can discuss that as a piece of it. So can we switch now to Kilim Chang, because this is something different that happened in Korea, a totally different set of developments, and so
Maybe very similar.
it's similar because you're involved, but in terms of Kilim doing the development in Korea and helping connect the Asian some of the other Asian countries. So this is Kilim Chang from Korea, South Korea, and he will give out his talk.
Yeah, I guess we had a presentation from the USA when the internet started, and now we hear what happened in China, the biggest country in the world. And I was wondering why I had to make a presentation of Korea, the small country, the other side of the globe, and why I have to make this presentation in Tunisia. One thing is very benefit. I really appreciate the wonder is this is the way I decide to summarize the internet history in Korea and write a paper. And I also wrote the internet history of Asia. So I really appreciate it. But here I have to think.
Excuse me, could you folks go outside and talk if you're going to talk?
Yeah.
Please, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, please? Okay, go ahead. Yes, go ahead. You have your full time. No,
Okay,
okay.
Yeah, I have to justify why I had to make a presentation of Korea, the small country the outside the world, to here. And okay, then I sort of come up with this idea. And in a global internet traffic, do you know how much is the global internet traffic today? Aggregated, average. It's somewhere between 5 to 10 terabps. Okay, that's given. That's sort of assume that's given. Like USA, as the internet was developed, do you know how much traffic they are generating today?
No.
It's somewhere 1 terabps aggregated average traffic per second. Somewhere between we say 1 to 1.5 terabps. Okay, next is a Korea. Do you know how much we are generating traffic? 1 terabps. It's a tiny country in Asia, generating as much traffic as USA, which is about almost all the market is bigger. So probably I hope with this presentation you get some idea why Korea is generating so much of the internet traffic. Per capita base, per person base, we are generating about 5 times as much traffic as USA. And what are we doing on those traffic? I hope you can get some idea through my presentation. That's my justification to make this presentation. Okay, those are the I go the decades. This one, I guess, we have a presentation already, so that I don't have to make any further comment. I just happened to went to the UCLA where the internet started back in 1960s. So I met all those people who started in Hauben, which gave us some kind of advantage for me to start in Korea. Okay, birth of Korean internet is SDN in 1982. Beginning operation in 1982. It's arguably one of the earliest internet anywhere in the world. Normally I say like USA and Korea are the first internet globally. And anyway, in Korea we started 1982. It's a very small network, 2 domestic nodes and only the 1200 bps. But that's, at that time it was pretty fast. Okay, this is the SDN, the internet in Korea in 1985. I just picked up from some conference proceeding. And also we had a UUCP and the Usenet in 1983, almost at the same time as TCP/IP. One of the reasons is the international link. US doesn't allow IP connection. US, yeah. So the only way we can connect, not just Korea, in any country, like German or anybody, you have to connect the USA through the UUCP or something, not the IP connection, which US decided to open in 1987, the Steve Wolf, and he also had a hard time on this one too. And also domestically, many UUCP you need only PC to operate. And in order to operate IP, TCP IP, you really need those bags or some super mini computer. So also as a secondary site, we tend to use those UCP. And the Usenet is good, provide a good content, like news. And then we had international links, not just with the USA, also in Canada and Europe, and also in about 4 or 5 countries in Asia. And they're all in a dial-up. This is we call the AsiaNet. At the time of 1985, this is sort of topology, like Japan, Korea, Singapore, Indonesia, Australia are the initial those UUCP link. And then we had, of course, a link to the USA, Canada, and Europe. This is back in the we started this one in 1983, and this is the topology of 1985. Okay, in the 90s, just like many other those English or non-Roman character countries, the first thing we have to do is support a local language. So the very first one is email, and natural email you need an editor. Those are the 2 things we really needed. And actually we had those very lousy VI to handle the Korean character. That's really kind of bug us. Because you cannot make money by developing a Korean character VI, but you have to have it. So some student did really those hacking, and which we had to suffer for so many years. And commercial email started in 1985, very soon. Think about the TCP/IP network, we started in 1982. 2 years later, we had those commercial the email service. This one is a very different not from the outcome of our networking. It's from the very commercial operation. Some American company, I guess MCI, they sort of did a service in Korea, like Japan, Hong Kong, those several countries in Asia. It's one of those. Okay, then many other countries, when the domain name, initially they had only gtld.edu.gov.com, and then they decide to what shall I do in those outside of USA, and so they decided to develop the ccTLD, and we all decide to operate those ccTLD, like UK, Korea, German, around 1985-86. And also we had a IP address allocation in 1986, just like other countries in Europe. And then naturally, it's kind of the first phase of those internet governance. We had to coordinate. So that we made those academic network committee in 1986 to define those just like usual things, like a topology, domain name, IP address allocation. And they sort of evolve, change the name. Initially it's academic, but around the 90s, we started having those commercial operation. So the academic doesn't sound too good. So we changed to the K, stand for Korea. And somehow by those bureaucracy, government showed the interest. So that we have to change the name. So we changed the name to the NNC, just like ICANN name and numbering committee. And then the Korean government further showed much more interest. They should be in a driving seat. So that we had to change to the IAPC this year. And just like any other country, like we also had those KNIC to handle the IP address and DNS. Okay, in the parallel to this IP network, we had those PC communication. In the USA, they call the bulletin board. And this was the fairly extensive development because TCP/IP covers those basically university and some research institute. So the rest of them who are not doing a research, they just want to communicate, tend to use PC communication. They could use ours. Ours, we have those open service, but it's not really suited to the general audience. You have to be reasonably technical to use our system. And this also, the PC communication also started in, as soon as PC sort of deployed, the 1984, 2 years after the TCP/IP network started. Then the later, they just really get into the very big on commercial service. And this one really lead to those development online community. I should say, like, if you're looking from today, those online community, netizen, how many percent come from this PC communication? How many percent come from the TCP/IP? Probably I would say 80% come from the PC communications. Ours, the TCP/IP community is a rather minority. We tend to do those technical area, but not in humanity or social science area, and nor the media. Okay, then there's a big thing, like Steve Wolf at the NSF, he decided to open up IP connection to the overseas. So they developed those project, one for Europe, one for the Asia, to connect those European country to the USA, and the other one is Asian country to the USA. And in the case of Asia, we call the PACOM. And location we pick up is Hawaii. It's very natural. So US come to the Hawaii, middle of Pacific, and then from Pacific connect to the Japan, Korea, and Australia, and other countries. That's the 1989. And this is the really start of a global IP network. Previously, we had some IP over X25 or a couple of those derivatives, but they are not really productive. This one is the real production service you may consider. And of course, this one, you have to be the academic. Okay, and also we had in 1985, we had I guess one of the first global internet conference in Seoul. Back in 1985, we had about 300 people attend. So I could archive many of those Korean internet status and also the Asian internet status. Then from this point on, we had a joint workshop in Asia. This 1985 it's a global conference, but from 1986 we had those regional conference, and we're still doing now. Okay, and the purification of internet, somehow separate from our effort. Korean government, they decided to do the 5 national information network project plan, and they drafted the law in 1986. And one of those 5 networks is the research and education network. And then the banking, and okay, and the banking and government administration and such. Then the web begins, like any other countries, and it came also in Korea in 1993, and with Mosaic, like any other, many other countries in the USA and Europe. Okay, skip this one. Okay, commercial internet service sort of started in mid-90s, pretty much same as others. And also we sort of come up at the same time, internet exchange, and first those online newspaper, they all come up almost at the same time. and also the internet ventures. Then later, late 1990s, something sort of 96, 97, we had a broadband internet service. And by now, I guess Korea is one of the first country where the broadband is saturated, and broadband is the universal service. Just like a telephone, you can request the carrier to provide the broadband. The first country anywhere in the world. It's very expensive to the carrier. But we Korean government think everybody has entitled to have a broadband service. And many other countries, they are still kind of studying. The reason is very simple. If you have a high school kids, you have to have a broadband. Otherwise, they can't do this study in Korea. And the social impact. We have a say like a positive, but also the negative impact, just like any other countries. Which it's nothing really special, just like pretty much same as others. Some of them is much more heavier. But then a governmental effort, government also doing many things to coordinate those efforts. And then also government tried to draft a law, couple of them, and they're successful, but sometimes they couldn't because of those civil society opposition, like many other countries. And netizens, I guess online community developed by this PC communication, that's the real starting on the netizens. And we had many of those movements, including presidential election and the World Cup, they really use internet fully. And okay, that's the sort of end of Korean. And this is the sort of a table for the Asia. So everything sort of started the meeting in 1984, academic net workshop. It's a Land Weber's workshop. At that time, we had a meeting among the Asia Pacific. Then we had a conference. Then we decided to make 1991, we decided to make a APNG, Asia Pacific Networking Group, which spin off most of those internet groups in each area, APNIC, APAN, all sorts. Okay, and back to those internet traffic. Of course, like Korea has quite a lot of traffic, but Korea is not alone. Like Hong Kong is by now producing a per capita base about same as us, and Japan, and Taiwan, and metropolitan area of China. All of them, they are producing more traffic per capita compared to the USA. So it seems to be very much of a Northeast Asian phenomenon. We all use much more internet than say like USA or Canada. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have, go ahead.
I wonder
Yeah.
if that volume of traffic is at least in part due to such a wide availability of broadband, because
Yeah.
any individual person can be
That's
generating.
right.
Now, is that subsidized by the government, the broadband?
No, really. No.
People just,
They can make money. I mean, Korea will make money.
so it's affordable to have broadband for that many people?
Oh yeah. Or more. You have to have it.
But who's paying for it?
So is it like, even the bottom 20% of society can
Like,
afford
for
to have
example, they'll
broadband?
give up newspaper or television broadband. Because like, you can watch television in the broadband. So you could give up a television, but giving up internet is very difficult in Korea.
So it's just totally market-based?
Oh, no, it was supported by the government, though, to get this possible. I thought that's very important, that there was government
No, really.
to begin with?
No,
I'm sorry,
not really.
sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
initially back in about 10 years ago, like when we had the NII, GII, like information infrastructure, government used support to develop a fiber, deploy a fiber nationwide. So it's an indirect support.
For the backbone or to people's
Yeah,
homes?
backbone.
Yeah, okay.
But otherwise, no, not really. If we didn't have a government, probably we would have more broadband.
Okay, one other question? Anybody else? Thank you, yeah. Our next presentation is Anders Eklund from Norway, and he's giving us an economist perspective.
When you hear my presentation, you will clearly see that it doesn't fit in with the others. But I can't use my time to justify why I'm here, so I just have to start speaking. I'm an economist of training, 5 years of that, and some informatics, history, Czech language. I work at the research institute, and I'm going here to talk not of historical things, mainly, I will touch to that, but I'm going to talk sort of more about the politics and economics of the internet. And the fundamental question is, what is the role of economic theory in the discussion of internet development and governance? And the first, and my major point, I can stop after that there's not only one economic theory, but there is mainstream neoclassical economic theory, which what you read in the paper, or you read Financial Times or Economist, it's called just economic theory. So economic theory tells us this, it tells us that. Of course, the neoclassical theory is a broad church, so it's different currents and viewpoints inside it, but it shares some fundamental things. There are other theories, which you can read there. But my point is that neoclassical theory is very special in its theoretical foundation because it's static. And it's ahistoric, has a very special theory of human rationality, and that is often the reason why sort of the other social sciences feel sort of strange when they meet economists. That is neoclassical economists. They feel that they don't speak the same language. They have these bizarre models. They are always too abstract and so on. So there is a divide between sort of mainstream economics and the other social sciences, and a sub-argument is that only when economics sort of as a profession as a whole shift to dynamic perspective, you will join sort of the economic thinking with the other social sciences. So all the interactions that are could be very fruitful could take place. It's not so. If you know Gary Baker, no, he tells you things like there's a perfect match in every marriage market. So you can look at your private lives and see how that fits in. Okay. The core of this, and why it's so dominant, is of course that it says, and is proved mathematically by De Breu in 1957, that given these and these mathematically expressed functions, you will arrive, and this way only, to maximum social welfare. And which is a very, very strong proposition. But, so if you take the preconditions as given, I think you can't beat De Breu. Nobody has done it ever after, so it's logically consistent. I argue that it's utterly divorced from reality, but more of that later on. Because competition is a profoundly dynamic phenomenon, but in perfect competition, everything is given. Preferences, technologies, initial endowments, prices, and in everyday language, competition is, so perfect competition in economist language is not competition at all. It's absolutely standstill, it's perfect stagnation would be the most appropriate sort of everyday concept for it. And if you know French, you have the concept of nature mort, and the Germans say Stillleben. That's the picture, sort of the fruit and the vase, and nothing, absolutely nothing is moving, and no actor in that picture has no incentive to move even sort of a grape. And then I will start my sort of robo-contra arguments that when you have asymmetric information, which is sort of well-known concept among economists, there's no reasons why the other actors should not know as good as the market. As soon as you sort of twist that a little bit, and most neoclassical economists, they sort of realize the obvious thing that information is I'm not all-knowing, and few of you are, some of you maybe, but as soon as we don't know different things, then you have to prove that the market knows better than other actors. And to go rapidly, it's that research community, parts of government, social organizations, they could know as good as the market, which often they do. Market is just this kind of word here. It is not a social sort of mechanism at all. And even more, and this is really important, they take, of course, initial endowments. That means your wealth, what you have in your pocket when the game starts. This is absolutely given. And from sort of a theoretical point of view, very many, which I come to have I passed it, I must go back to it, that sort of very many people think that prices could move a little bit. So when you reach this equilibrium, it's because prices are moving a little bit, even though it's realistically small amount. It's sort of they're moving to get the equilibrium. That's true. It's totally forbidden, because as soon as you move prices, you move initial downwards, because the price of what you have in the pocket then changes. You will never get this mathematical construct to converge. That's why it has to be utterly static. Okay. Okay, I made some mistake. Right, we are short of time, so some more theoretical arguments which we don't have to go through. Maybe I should go back. Okay, I must have. Okay, let me then jump from this more general critique into what happened with the governance of domain names. There's many aspects of the internet I could speak of from an economic perspective, so I will speak here mainly about the domain names. And you know, as has been very clear here, so the internet developed in small circuits, which was not into the horizon of the elites at all. But at a certain point, sort of in the late 80s, early 90s, and especially from when you get the graphical browser on the internet, then every sort of dumb person in the elite knew that this was something, and it was something new. And then, of course, to get it out, I would say, of public control, the Clinton government then put out a green paper which sort of argued for the privatization of this affair. And it's the neoclassical theory which sort of gives the theoretical foundation for that. Because you privatize and then you get the maximum welfare, and to get maximum welfare you have to increase competition everywhere. Am I standing somewhere?
No, you're fine.
I cannot, it would be interesting to go into this private sector bottom-up coordination which they argued for, and also the representation. I think time is running out. And it's my title, that's the answer is not more market, more competition, but this first quote is taken from a very long article, which is the economics of internet governance. And it says, TLDs is known to everybody, top level domains like NO, DE, TR, CN, yeah. So they actually propose that the number of such, not the national top level domains, but the others, this gov, mil, edu, cum, int, org, that mil, yeah, three of those are sort of separate from, not allowed for rest of us, only US only. But the point is that sort of you should have an auction to let the market decide how many top-level domains there should be of these generic top-level domains. And the argument is that that once it recognizes that domain names are private goods, allows market allocation, a more efficient system of namespace management should emerge, which is a rather strong thing to say, because I mean the obvious question is what has been wrong with it up to now when it was non-commercial. It created great things, so why change a winning team? And this is sort of very typical of these articles, that they are sort of, some things are just not inside their view, and such simple questions, why you should get, it's not obvious that you will get more efficient use of the domain names than what has been produced sort of by these multiple actor, very often the sort of the technical community, researchers, and so on. And as they also discuss in this Manheim and Solomon article, why shouldn't you have auctions for internets? Because it's no problem to have competing internets. So why should you allow people to have another internet which could compete with existing internet, so that you can maximize welfare and get a real competition to see who made the best net? Of course, you could argue otherwise that it will not happen that time, but from a purely static point of view, if you not allow any time, any sort of competition, which is really difficult for any normal person to configure in its head, that they would people go to one net or the other, but people don't go in this model. It's totally static.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But you could say, was the outcome of UMTS auctions? I will go quick. It was some bankruptcies. It just sort of increased monopolization. All these sort of think that this was wonderful for creating sort of many actors in the UMTS space. Yeah, sorry. I thought you were sort of saying something bad, but it of course the basic law here is that competition creates monopoly. If there's no contracting forces, that is the closer you get in real life to a situation that looks like perfect competition, the quicker you will switch into a situation of absolute monopoly. I could argue that more in detail for those interested, but believe me, it's true. And this is just another and very important in my mind defect of this theory, that it's utterly it's not capable of understanding people and their motives. So this is, even though we can discuss sort of the ICANN from various angles, it's clear that it kind of had a tradition and was recruited by people who was genuinely interested in the net. Well, if they had some private agenda which we don't like, that's another question. But they were genuinely interested in developing this technology from their point of view. And what you can see here is that this is the sort of the theory of mistrust. So they can't just imagine people sort of just taking an ordinary salary and then working like hell to do something good. They have to maximize their sort of income, their wage, their fringe benefits, something like that. But there's no evidence of rent-seeking behavior of the ICANN management, bribery. Rather, members of the ICANN board and management appear to derive utility for the participation in the ICANN process. Which is then sort of counter to what they want to have some mean little rat ready for some small piece of cheese all the time, and when they don't get it, they don't reflect back to their own theoretical background. They just sort of stake it as a counter fact, which they don't sort of deal with. Okay, I will go very quickly through this, because the proof of the pudding is the eating, and sort of the dot-com thing where the market really ruled was sort of was an enormous waste. Nobody has calculated it because it would be a disaster to the economic profession to calculate sort of when markets really work, how much it cost. And when you take Russia, where sort of Jeff Sachs could sort of play with the whole country and sort of really try the static model that if institutions are just like this, you just sort of let prices loose, you just privatize, he got all the institutions the way he wanted, and then he sort of let the process loose, and the result was a catastrophe. Because this theory is not dynamic, so there's no theory of the path from one point to another. You can put equilibria static beside each other, but I won't go into the theoretical details of that, but that is not the path. It's not a real movement. You can't argue from the bottom. There's very, very sort of elegant, mathematically far too sophisticated for me, economists who has gone through this because they wanted to try to make it dynamic. That would be sort of, after the Brø, you would have the Nobel Prize tomorrow.
Okay, we have 1 minute.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, and then to take a little bit from Norway, the Nordic countries have, of course, done everything wrong all the time for 60 years. So we subsidize, we have a compressed wage scale, we are too state, we nationalize, and it's going to fail. Yeah. And so this is also a fact you have to take in. And of course, the explanation is quite simple, that if you're realistic about how markets really work, you can intervene in them, form them, shape them, so that they serve your purpose. Markets work. You can read a book by Moll, it's called The Free Market Innovation Machine, which clearly states out the old point from Marx and Schumpeter and Veblen and a lot of others, that this technological rivalry, that you don't beat IBM by making a accurately similar machine which is 10 cents cheaper. Of course, you make quite another machine with other configurations, with another proportion between price and utility. That's the way you come with VAX. The VAX is then outcompeted by a PC. The PC will be sort of outcompeted by the laptop. So it's not this frantic notion of price competition in a static setting that is driving the world. It's not creating welfare. This model is permanent stagnation. We will still be in Stone Age if that model actually was real. Yes, I have to go. And okay, I see this. Yeah.
Fine.
So, of course, as soon as you allow yourself to think in dynamic terms, like all the other social sciences do, then you have so then all the interesting questions open up. There should be representative control, that's my opinion, and it should not be a certain government who has sort of put the whole thing. It's not even under political control in the US. That was the move that they made when they put up ICANN, that it was under the Department of Defense first and then under the Department of Commerce, and so now it's totally taken out of public representative control. And of course, the internet was shaped by two social groups, the researchers and the first enthusiastic and competent users, and unfortunately they're still with us.
Nice.
To a large extent, of course, with sort of the explosion of internet as a tool for everything, for commerce, a lot of various interests. Of course, that group, which is still there, is marginalized in a certain sense, and that's a good thing. But that just needs some reflection. Of course, they are recognized by everyone that they should be still a stakeholder, very important stakeholder in forming the future on that. And it's not sort of because they are researchers or something that they are more pure than others, but by pure sociological fact, they are sort of not that rich. They are sort of generally liberal and democratic, and that's why. So they have as a community, they have a political agenda which is more in accordance with the general public as so. It's a lot of researchers been very conservative, Nazi. I mean, you could. In the 30s in Norway, you could be a professor and you could measure skulls of the saints, the lapsed in northern Norway. So there's a lot of mad scientists. So there's nothing sort of pure by research, but by accident or sort of.
Final sentence.
Yeah, I will go further on here. Okay, let me go to the summary. That there are several economic theories. Neoclassical is clearly the most ideological of them, I would say. It has a very weak scientific foundation, very, very strong policy and normative conclusions, which bear no sort of relation to the weak foundation it stands upon on close scrutiny. Maybe you're surprised, but that I think is a fact which we can argue. And markets, of course, work, but they work quite differently. They are dynamic, they are formed by institutions and everything like that, which all of us know. This is no great mystery, but of course it's a certain science to study them and make a systematic.
You have to finish.
Yeah, sorry. And then, of course, for this WSIS and ICANN and sort of the general development of the internet, very economic theory as an ideologist or sort of as a background metaphor plays a role. It's very important if you have to have a sort of a litmus test of a theory. It should be: can it incorporate democracy? Does it have a state? Does it, in its fundamental model, have a democracy? Because there is a fundamental contradiction between one man, one vote and $1, one vote. I won't outvote Bill Gates, but in a normal democratic election, I can. So that's the basic thing, I think, which sort of differs the neoclassical theory from institutional, post-Keynesian, various brands of Marxian, Schumpeterian.
You got to end up. You got to finish because it's just.
But I have finished.
Okay.
That's my last. It's my next to last slide, and I will just this will just be on the wall because it's such a nice quote. It's a little bit too long to spell out. There is Oscar von Morgenstern, who got to Wilhelm Neumann, made the modern game theory. And take the joy of reading that quote because it's summing up my whole speech.
Thank you. Okay, we have any particular questions for Anders?
We have the 3 questions on the table that were originally asked, and we could still talk to them, which was, would people want to be active net citizens? What rights are needed to bring forward the full use of the net? And isn't there also malicious and illegal activity that the net makes possible? So I wonder if anybody would speak. You should present your evidence that people might not want to be net citizens. And
okay, it's also just about almost time. So if people want to stay for a few minutes, that's up to you.
And I will put papers out.
Yeah, we have papers, and we also have this. Yeah. Yeah, we have several of the papers for if anyone has to leave. Okay. Did you want to say something?
Well, yeah. As I asked the question, I started thinking about it, and where I got my information from was from a research project on nanotechnology, which is of course also a new technology, but it doesn't really exist yet. It's not really close to the users yet. And then again, the internet is a lot closer to the user, so that might be a sort of a division between technologies in which it might be useful, or people want to say something about the technology as it gets closer to them.
Oh, interesting.
That's more my sort of
Your way
reflection on my own question.
Any other comments on that, on those questions, or on the? I thought there was a question about. I thought there was a question about South Korea before. I don't know. About that being learning from that development and looking at the Asian development as a way to look towards what can be helpful, if there are lessons to draw out of that development. And I thought was some of why I chose to propose this as the form. And I would still hope that we could look at that maybe when the papers, we'll try to get the papers online, and maybe people can look at that and can try to think about what is it that helps to development to go both locally and internationally is one. Okay, I think there was another question. There were two other questions. One was what it would look like for people online to have a set of rights guaranteed. And I thought one of the things is just Michael had proposed the draft declaration of the rights of netizens, which is the end of, we have that in the end of the Netizen book, which is online and also in a print edition. But I thought what happened in the 90s, and I thought Killam said there was a similar situation, particularly in Korea, but there was one in general online, which involved people around the world, was people were saying, we're netizens, we want to participate, and we want some say in what's happening. And I thought that what had happened is the internet made it possible to have some say. And what was found is if you have very broad-ranging discussions about something, you can sort out what are the real problems, and then you can sort out what are the issues that have to be understood to solve the problem. So there was a real difference in being able to discuss an issue in a broad-ranging way with a lot of people involved online, and trying to take a very difficult issue and have it solved in some more isolated situation. So I thought there is a body of understanding from that, and I thought I particularly see it in looking at some of the Korean, what Korean people say, what some of the Korean netizens say about some of what they found has been valuable in their access, and it's similar to what was online. I thought there was also the question of what to do about the online spam and all the problems and the people who are where people are not acting as what we would consider citizens in the good sense of the word, but are just abusing the net and in their various ways. And so just, I mean, I could speak to that. Does anyone else want to speak to that? I mean, what I found is if online people take that up and try to take up how to deal with that sometimes that can help. And there were some examples that have happened with that. I thought the spam does really need to find a way to deal with it, and that, you know, that is a problem. But it's also that if more people somehow were introduced to the concept of netizen as net citizen, then I thought, I mean, then there's a body of people trying to challenge the use of the net that's not a constructive use. And so there's that. I thought one of the things happening in South Korea was there was this very big discussion about something somebody took a picture of what somebody had done, and they had done something that wasn't, the person did something that was a problem, but the picture also became a problem. And so there was a very broad discussion about this situation with people on different sides, and the people seemed to be not listening to each other. But if you really looked at the discussion, in fact, people were convincing each other of the issues involved, because there was people were talking about it online and were trying to figure it out and were taking it seriously. So I thought that there is something very helpful that can happen from online if we look at it. And I thought those are some of the issues that it's helpful to have study of and serious attention to. Is there anyone else or any other? I realize it's time.
It's lunchtime, I think.
Yes, we thank you for coming and for your help. Yeah.